Thanks for staying with us. The Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, recently advised state governments to enact laws to make mandatory monthly rent payments, which will enable housing to be more available to Nigerian masses. What are your thoughts on this? Join the conversation and call us on 081-270-53687 or 091-390-76948. When I saw that, I was like, wow. Okay. As a landlord, as a tenant, what would be your perspectives? Where would you want to? Because I know that sometimes most of these landlords really invest their life savings and earnings to have something at the end of the day that would be like another stream of income that will sustain them. We already know the failures of the states and how you finish work, you are fighting to get your pension. So this is a sort of pension for some people. But now that the state government is saying we will likely have laws that will make sure that people pay just monthly to serve the masses, what happens to the people who have invested, who have built without the support of government?
No, the minister is saying that he's advising state governors to create the law within their states to make it mandatory for people to pay monthly. From a tenant's perspective, it sounds good, it sounds fair for planning. From the perspective of someone in the real estate business and knowing the numbers that I know, if you build a 4 flats or you build a duplex in Lagos right now, it will take you in the minimum 7 to 10 years, sometimes as much as 12 years to recover. If you're collecting your salary, your rent, that's even on the case that you don't have any defaults. By the time you finish building your commercial property and you're collecting rent every month, it might take you 10 to 12 years to recover the initial money that you used in purchasing the land and building, which doesn't make business sense, which is why many developers don't do rental. They do buy and sell. They build and sell so they get their money back and continue the business. A government cannot create a policy on what you should do with your money when it did not support you in making the money or in financing your building project. If you check out developed countries where there are stipulated laws concerning how you should do your rent, all that the policies, the government literally funds everything. You get a land, the government gives money to build. You want to get mortgage, you get mortgage to buy. The process is so government involved to make it easy for everybody. But if the government isn't doing much to support the industry, then they cannot create policies that will not be effective in raising the industry at all. They tried it with saying 1 year rent and it's not been very successful.
Okay, so in my own case, looking at it from both sides and looking at what, happens right now when it comes to defaulters. First of all, I want to say that I think it will be a fantastic idea to be able to pay monthly because it will help a lot of people, build on their earnings to improve themselves. When I was growing up, I grew up with a mother who was a nurse. She was the breadwinner and sole provider for us. And I'm sure it would have gone a long way if she was able to pay monthly instead of putting all her earnings together, try to put everything and pay yearly. So it really made it tough. And I know that this particular law, it's being geared towards low-income earners. So that's on the one side. But the second thing is that I know that in Nigeria, you cannot, if someone defaults, and no matter how long the person has defaulted, you cannot just take the person out and throw the person out. There is a process, and that process takes a long time. And I know that so many cases of landlords and tenants in court. This is even the 1 year, 2 year rent. So if you were to push the monthly rent style, then you have to do something about how to get your money. You have to do something about how a landlord now does not completely completely loses out because he has decided to put his earnings, his earnings into building a building for people to rent. And for me, I think also it will discourage, they're trying to do this to encourage more housing units and provide basic shelter for people. But what it will do is that it will discourage people who have money to build homes from building. So we need to be careful that in order to push this 1 month, what else can the government do to make sure that the landlords themselves see it as an advantage for them? First of all, like Tope has mentioned, should there be some form of payment plan where government sort of pays maybe the first 6 months and then says to the tenants, you pay the remaining? So for the first 6 months, the landlord is comfortable enough and waiting until the tenant is able to pay the next one. Is it a direct debit on low-income earners that are working in formal, settings, that so they can get their monthly rent from source? Or else, if we leave it to, just
pay as you go.
Pay as you go. I think it will be very difficult to get your
Thank you
rent.
for your thoughts, Miriam. Nima?
It's, for me, a welcome alternative. So this shows that, the minister is constantly faced with questions like this and is proffering solutions. The issue for me is, locking it down on a particular policy. So when they brought the one-year rent policy and made it law, you found landlords finding alternatives on how to bypass it. I think they should open up that sector. If your choice is a 2-year plan, it's the choice of your tenant to take it. It doesn't become illegal if you choose to recover your money that way. If it is your choice to do a monthly plan, if you're a considerate investor and think life is hard for me too, I want to consider my tenants, it should be like that. And you will have other criteria that you would pick your tenant by. If I had an investment, for instance, a house where I wanted to put my tenant on monthly rent, my tenant had to show means, a job that I'm sure and certain that he can pay, and he can put that payment on recurring payment, so that automatically his account is debited to that amount from source. So I can rest on it. But I don't want government to unlock it on a monthly plan, forgetting that we have mischievous tenants everywhere.
Are you telling me?
With also an alternative that I've always considered is putting the recovery of premises action in a special court.
Yes.
I have had a whole year in court just to recover.
Make it faster,
And you have some tenants who are owing up to 3 years, telling the landlord,
you can't do me nothing.
You have not given me 6-month notice. That
and yet you are owing 3 years
The law had to intervene. There was a particular case in study that I love to use all the time, where the court said, you are owing. You have already, defaulted over a year. You are not entitled anymore. You're only entitled to 7 days' notice to recover premises, and that is what most. But when we still get to some magistrate court, the court will now say, no, go back to the old policy of 6 months' notice, and then you find a tenant down, lording it over
the landlord,
a person who's, for most people in Nigeria, whose pension is his house.
Yes.
For most people.
Yes.
So if my pension was my house, a monthly rent would do, but a mischievous tenant would then bring a clog and I'm suffering. So I think that should be opened up. Let it be a choice of both tenants and landlords to use any of these methods to, to do their business. And if they do, let it be under an emergency court, because of course there's that line of abuse from either landlord or tenant. So let it be a quick court process so that it's not justice delayed, justice denied victim for either party.
Well done, very fantastic. When I saw this, I was like, in my mind, this is a welcome development. I think we need to get to a point where, as you're making money, you're also considering other people around you. Let's be humane in everything we're doing. So we're asking for God's blessings to be able to build our own homes, but also you should be a blessing to people around you. So if you can make it a monthly payment and then people are able to have accommodation, and your blessing is also in heaven aside from the reward you're going to get. But I would have preferred that the government takes the lead. We have housing that government has built where they are selling off to different people, and they are not, some people are complaining. There are some areas now, the area I was living before, they were complaining that they couldn't have access to those buildings because they couldn't afford it. And for me, if the government had used some of those houses, put people in as rents, let them pay monthly, start it, see how it works. Then, hold on, start to see how it works, then start having conversations with landlords to say, this is a policy we have started, this is working, we have modalities to handle those people who offend and are not able to pay, and then you get your money, and then let the landlords decide by themselves that, okay, I think this is an option that is viable for me. But when, like you mentioned, but when you put it into a law, it becomes mandatory for the money you are not even aware how they made.
No, it really doesn't. See, government is not for one side. Government is for every side.
Okay.
So government, it doesn't matter how the money is made. If you allow a capitalist system without regulation, there will be definitely abuses. So the government has to regulate. Okay. On the part of government not doing this method, taking the lead, government is already doing that. And I'm aware, yes.
There's rent to own.
Yes, there's rent. No, apart from rent to own.
Monthly payments?
Most of the buildings, that I know that the government
Lagos homes.
own. No, that's for state. I'm talking of federal.
Federal, okay.
They are built and, disbursed under the Federal Mortgage Bank and all of that policies that allows you pay at a very reduced percentage from your salary.
Is it monthly?
Yes.
Yes, they do monthly payments.
In fact, the 0% is for your annual income.
Okay.
So people should avail themselves the information first. And
But
then
the
say,
qualifications,
you can't be working.
Pre-qualifications are tough
Pre-qualification
as well.
usually, no, they're not tough.
But they should give us
They're not
data.
tough. It's people who don't tidy their papers.
We need to have data on how many they have,
Yeah, we don't
how
have
long
enough
is
units.
working. So when you present this data and everybody's seeing the
Usually
figures,
you
find
outside, they build outside
cities.
Okay.
So people will say Otijinoju eventually,
okay.
and they will take, but those who take
All
are
right.
relieved of.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we take phone calls and messages. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back. Miriam had a comment?
Yes. So, in response to what Nima says, where we're talking about the prerequisites that you need to have or pre-qualifications to be able to, access some of the housing that's provided by government. First of all, we also talk about the fact that our economy is 60%, they say, about informal. And that means that there are people who may not be qualified for some of the things that government is putting in place. So if you have an informal, so this housing that we're asking for, who is the target market? Is it for the 60% that are out there who do not have these papers, who do not have,
Tax
or 80%, tax receipts and things like that? So if we're talking about those people, then government needs to do a lot of work before we get to the point where we're asking them to pay monthly salaries, or the government has to now provide these housing themselves and deal directly with this informal sector and find a way to formalize it. We've had this conversation of how to formalize the informal, the huge informal sector that we have in Nigeria. And these are some of the things that affects them, where they're unable to access government interventions because, we just cannot find them data, papers, or anything to. So, I think when government is talking about some of these policies, they need to understand that they need to look at it holistically and find out how to first deal with some of those issues. And then I think housing will sort of fall into place when that's done.
Thank you so much. Let's take this call. Ladele from Ibadan. Good morning, Ladele.
Good morning, my lady.
Good morning.
My heart goes to Morano. My kind regards to her.
Thank you.
Yes, on the discussion, I want to say we've had such an intervention before during the military administration of Mobolaji Johnson in Lagos. Did it work then? It did not. Why didn't it work? Because government does not hold those houses that they are legislating over. Now, if the government, there is a lot the government can do to really make housing affordable. And that is making the materials for building affordable for the common man to build their own houses. And not only that, they should also look at the possibility of giving out to civil servants housing loan that is meaningful, that will help them to really build their own houses. But in a situation where you are asking landlord, like one of you reasonably said, many people build this house to make it their pension when they are out of office or in their old age. And this is the only area where they are able to accrue money for their various needs. So now legislating that it should be monthly cannot work. It has never worked before. It will not work again.
Thank you so much, Ladele Tope.
Please, there are many issues I want to address. Number one, I think that every person paying rent should actually plan monthly for it if you earn on a monthly basis and save up. I always tell people when I'm discussing financial planning that you don't wait until 3 months to your rent is due before you start quickly running around to be saving money or begging people for money and all of that. You're supposed to already be saving ahead into special accounts. This is for your rent. That is proper planning. Number two, you cannot legislate. You cannot legislate on what is not yours. You must provide infrastructure. Now, when I was in the US, I did a bit of investigation on housing, and I spoke to some people, and I realized that before you rent out houses in America, they do a check on your finances. There's a credit score system, so they can know your credit. They know if you are good for it when you are giving loan. Then they also investigate to find out how did you leave your former house, and get reference from your former landlord before you get a new one. The next one, you put a default fee on ground. You pay a month rent up front. So when we don't have all these systems in place, so you can run a check on the finances of the people, you can trace whoever it is that you have a guarantor, you can call their employment to verify the quality of their employment. Putting policies that there are no frameworks on ground to back up the policy might not fly. So there are many other adjacent infrastructure that will make this policy work, that we must first put on ground before we implement the policy itself.
All right, let's take this call from Christopher. Christopher from US. Good morning.
Wow.
Morning.
UK.
Morning. Yeah. Good. Hello? Hello?
Hello, can hear you. You're live.
Yeah, morning. Yeah, I just want to contribute to what you guys are saying regarding the monthly rent. I think Software just said now, yeah, she's right, and also what Miriam said earlier on, they are both right. I think before government can come up with this monthly rent, I think we need to go into proper planning, put things in place, as in a proper law that would guide both the tenant and the landlord as well. And as it is now in Nigerian economy now, I don't think monthly rent would be the ideal pattern now.
Okay.
Thank you, Christopher.
So I want to add that there's a large level of hardship created by the middlemen called agents and what are they called? Whatever we call it.
You people
agents
are
and agents.
agreements.
I'm a practitioner. I manage buildings.
Okay.
So some of the things Tokwe talked about are things that I do in my firm. Before you come in as a tenant for buildings that I manage, I have your details. Okay. I have your details. I know the size of your family. I see if the building can take them.
Now, I'm talking about the agreements they pay,
yes,
aside from
so
agency fee.
I draft agreement, but these people don't draft. They only find you the building, and they take a whooping 10% of the rent, annual rent. They create double hardship. Recently, my younger sister had to move. And, you know, aside the annual rent, that is almost $1 million, you had to then find that 10% for an agent that, you know, did not build the house. The person does not, his own is that because I link you, I get that whooping 10%, and it's not negotiable. To make it non-negotiable is even further creating hardship.
They do 5% now.
Sometimes,
if these people are not professional, their fees should be more than negotiable, and it shouldn't be up to that point where it makes it harder, because government is only trying to see how they can ease things for everybody by, you know, creating fees that are payable by tenants, as well as, you know, that they consider enough for a landlord who's invested his money. So what they can do is, of course, take care of this area, legislate upon these agents and all of that.
There's
very
legislation
important.
upon them.
Also, if they must exist, a 10% on a 1 month rent is enough.
But there's legislation on the agents. Lagos State has legislation on agency.
No,
they haven't been
only
Lagos State,
yes. The new tenement law. And even in Lagos State, where that
they are
law
not
exists,
implementing.
they are not implementing.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Honorable Toke Benson on the phone, the special advisor to the governor of Lagos State on housing. Good morning, sir.
Ma.
I saw Benson. I'm sorry. Good morning, Ma.
Hello, my name is Tony, calling from Korodu.
Okay. That's a caller. Good morning, Mr. Tony. Let's have your thoughts.
Hello.
That's Madam Toke.
That's okay. We apologize. There was a mix-up. So, Honorable Toke, good morning, Ma.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing amazing, Ma. So we've been talking, I don't know if you've been listening to the show, we've been talking about the law that would likely be coming up, and how the government can enact a law that would ensure that tenants pay monthly as against yearly. So,
actually,
okay.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, yes, please.
Actually, we might not necessarily be looking at a law. We might be looking at a policy.
Policy, okay.
And I think I heard one of you saying that government does not only have to think of the investor, but also the people of Lagos State. And we should make policies that would alleviate the pains of everybody. Yes, the landlord wants to make his money back. Yes, the landlord invested for pension and for certain other reasons. We're also taking those into consideration. I think I would just advise that you hold on a bit, take a back step, and see what the policy would be. It's not something that is going to, it's not draconian.
Okay.
And we've actually been practicing the monthly tenancy through our rent-to-own program. I know Nima spoke about this. And quite a number of people have been beneficiaries of the rent-to-own. What we do is we charge you 5% once you buy the house, which is the down payment. Then you pay on a monthly basis for the next 10 years. So we have been doing it. We've safeguarded our investments through pre-qualification, and it is open to both the formal and informal sector. We have a board called the Lagos State Mortgage Board, and that's where the pre-qualification process takes place. They look at your income over a certain period, and they look at the pattern. So what the policy says is that we cannot allow you to get on the scheme if we are going to take more than 33% of your monthly income. So we are aware of the fact that you need to do other things with your income. So if it is over 33% of your income, then you will not be qualified for that particular unit you're trying to buy. So we're doing it. We're looking at everything. It's also going to help us stop fraud in the real estate industry. So recently, we've had enormous complaints and petitions on people who have paid yearly rent, and then the landlord disappears or the developer disappears with all their money. That is also going to help us with that. And I heard somebody speak about civil servants. Civil servants are beneficiaries of at least 25% of all the housing units that the Lagos State government builds. So yes, we are taking them into place. And don't forget, they also have their own cooperative societies and loans available to them as well. On the agents, yes, we have legislated on the agents. We will continue to try to enforce, but it is huge. Lagos is a huge place. It's a huge marketplace. The housing industry in Lagos is enormous. And I know Software is already getting into that industry, but I can tell her that all of the things that she's spoken about this morning are things that we have actually thought through, and we're looking at it. But that particular policy on the monthly tenancy, I think you should take a back step, and then once you come up with everything that we have thought about and put on the table to do it, you would actually applaud the Lagos State government and the governor as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about the government has no business in doing business. You know, the real primary assignment of government is to provide the environment for business people to contribute to the society. I wonder what the process is for business owners within the real estate space to access funding, because one of the challenges that many people have is you are accessing private funds to build. You cannot now implement a policy that would make the recovery of those funds slow. So what is the government doing to provide funds for existing real estate structures to be able to create more housing units, number one? Number two, and how can they get on the mortgage level so that they can recover their funds, and the mortgage bank is the one now recovering funds from people who buy properties from them?
So, one of the reasons why we are actually looking at a number of policies is actually to create a governance structure in the industry. If you do not have an appropriate governance structure, you would not have access to funding. So if we do not put all these policies in place and make sure that the system and the process is transparent, you won't have access to funding to develop real estate. And it's a quid pro quo for everybody that once there's an appropriate governance structure, there's transparency in the industry, there are appropriate guidelines and policies guiding the industry, it will be seamless to get funding. On the issue of recovery, we have the mortgage foreclosure law right now at the House of Assembly. We are legislating already on it. And very soon, getting back your properties will be as seamless as ever. Because once we put that clause into our mortgage law, then you won't have to wait an eternity in the law court to recover your property. So we're looking at all the angles. Like, you know, okay, I used to live in the U.S. as well, and I know that there are processes that guide these things, and if those processes are not available in the industry here, we would not be able to actually do a lot of the things we're doing. So we're looking at all the angles. The entire real estate value chain is huge, and we're going to cover it by God's grace.
All right, Ma, let's take a short break. When we come back, we come to you. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Madam Toke Benson with us. Miriam had a question.
Mariam, I was wondering if you heard when we talked about the informal sector and how, you know, what the pre-qualifications for them would be to access housing.
Oh, yes, I heard you, and I think I already mentioned that. I told you about the Lagos Mortgage Board looking into their bank accounts and looking at the pattern there and seeing that there's actually an income that comes in either on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or on a monthly basis to determine if they actually do qualify. So we have traders. We have people who are in the market who do all sorts of trading, and we would not want to leave them out of the marketplace as well for housing. We want to get as much people as we can up the home ownership ladder. So we have not excluded them in any way. We have taken them into consideration, and they've been beneficiaries of our rent-to-own scheme. I can tell you that.
All right, Nima?
Yes. Already, as it is, they, like you said, they cover people that are in those, what we call informal sector. But you mentioned that over 20% or 25% of the estates within Lagos are already taken over by civil servants. So there's still a problem of meeting the percentage line that qualifies some of these people in the informal sector to be able to access homes within Lagos State. For choices of areas that they want, some people have to earn as high as 800 to 700 per month for them to qualify for certain estates. What exactly are their options, other options that they have aside, this system, what is already obtainable?
Nima, and as much as 700, 800, I don't think you will even want to do the Lagos State housing scheme. The most that I know of today, which is the one coming up, I think, in Sanwo-Olu, and that will be going for, the 3-bedroom will be going for about 25 million. The repayment, the monthly repayment is I think about 230,000, if I'm not mistaken, between 200 and 250,000. So definitely you wouldn't have to earn up to 800,000 to get a place like that. And you must know, Nima, that Lagos is, we don't have that land size. And we're trying to develop other areas. We're moving into the Lekki axis and the Badagry axis, so that, as you know, we have 250 units in Italy and Badagry. And we have another 400 units somewhere in Badagry as well, also coming up. So we're taking into consideration all areas. You also must know that not everybody lives on the island in Surulere, and I know you know that, Nina. In Surulere, in Victoria Island, and Ikoyi, and Lekki, we have people who live in Ikorodu, who live in Igodo. We have about 660 units coming up in Igodo as well, apart from the 480 that we did in 2019. So the market is huge, and that's why we encourage private practitioners as well to come into the program. We are not doing it for profit. Government is not for profit. So we're yielding that space to the private developers to do it. But we also must think of policies that would help income earners. Not everybody can buy that home. Not everybody can buy those homes that are being built by the developers. So we need to put policies in place that can help them. But I'm going to repeat it again. I'm not going to tell you what we have in the basket, but you will applaud us when we come up with this program. It's going to be a win-win for the developer, the homeowner, the landowner, the landlord, and the off-takers as well. I can assure you of that.
Thank you so much, Honorable Toke Benson. Thank you for being on the show. We'll keep monitoring this. If we have more questions, we'll invite you to answer. I hope you'll come.
I sure will. I'm a friend of the house.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we have to take a short break. When we come back, the show continues. Stay with us.